Greetings and welcome to the gender-based division segment of the WinLABS tournament presentation. WinLABS has many setup options for competitions that separate bowlers by gender, age, or average. In this segment, we will discuss some of the combinations offered. Gender plus age can be utilized by senior tournaments if they separate the men and the ladies. Gender plus average is commonly used by youth tournaments. And WinLABS can also assign divisions based on a combination of gender, age, and bowler averages. A few youth tournaments have reportedly used all three. In order for WinLABS to perform its assigned task, all the data elements must exist. For example, if you are holding a gender-based tournament, the gender must be stored with each participant's record. Since this is not a required field in WinLABS, there may be one or two missing in your database. Age-based tournaments require a date of birth on all participants. Average-based tournaments only require an entering average, which can be assigned if necessary. So what happens if the data is insufficient? WinLABS will leave the division blank. If you do not catch this immediately, there are reports that you can run later to find teams or bowlers without an assigned division. The first tournament type that we will cover is a gender plus age tournament. A senior tournament for men and women might look like this. WinLABS will separate teams or bowlers by gender first, then by their age. On the Define tab, there is an Age As Of field. Whenever you have an age-based divisional tournament, you need to enter a date that will be used to determine the bowler's age. If this field is left blank, ages will be determined on the date that they are added to the roster, which would be different for different entries. Youth tournaments should use August 1st of the previous year. Other tournaments usually use the date that the tournament begins. Here's an example of what the setup of Division 1 would look like. The division name should always help identify the division. The average fields are blank. They will be ignored because the age fields are not blank. One of the key fields is the minimum age, which for Division 1 is 75. The Age Applies To field can be left at the default, which is Team. This row of fields only applies to age-based teams or doubles competitions. As you can see, if you had an age-based doubles competition, the options would allow you to use the youngest bowler's age, the oldest bowler's age, or the team age to determine the division. Another key field is the gender. In this case, it is the men's division, so we indicated male. The option called Both would only apply to teams and doubles pairs. If you indicated both, you must have a male and female participant. None means that the gender will be ignored. Here is another screen showing the youngest age division in the senior tournament. Notice the minimum age of 55 and the maximum of 59. Here's a question. What will WinLABS do when you add a bowler that is 54 years old? The answer is WinLABS will not assign the division. It will be left blank. You should notice it immediately because the entry money will be out of balance. Since money comes from the division a bowler is in, and in this case they are not in any division, the money will not be reconciled. You can also run a report that will identify bowlers or teams that are missing a division. If your tournament is not mixed, you should not utilize the gender options. Leave it at the default position of none. Gender should only be used if it plays a role in determining the division. If only ladies bowl in a tournament, gender would be redundant. In most cases, a women's tournament might get away with having gender in the divisional setup. However, there have been rare instances where a bowler record did not have a gender and WinLABS could not assign the bowler to a division. Here we have an example of a youth tournament that utilizes gender and average. Note that you can have two divisions with the same number and that boys and girls can have different average criteria for their divisions. Here is a sample setup screen of the Division 1 girls. The division name identifies the division. The minimum average is set to 160. The maximum is set to blank, which is the equivalent of the highest possible value. The age fields are not applicable and have been left blank. The gender has also been set to female. Here we see an example of a gender plus average doubles division. The division is mixed, requiring one male and one female on each doubles pair. Note that the division name is logical. The minimum average is set to 360 and the maximum is set to blank. The age fields have been left blank. Note that we have set the gender required field to both. Only doubles teams that have one male and one female will be automatically placed in this division by WinLABS. Here we have an example of a youth tournament that utilizes gender, age, and average. WinLABS will first separate the boys and the girls. Within the boys, it will then separate them by age groups, 14 and over and 13 and under. Within each age group, it will then separate them by average, 151 and over and 150 and under for the 14 and over bowlers, 141 and over and 140 and under for the 13 and under bowlers. Here is an example of the Division I boys, 14 years old and over, with averages of 151 and up. The name is logical. The minimum average is 151 and the maximum is blank. The minimum age is 14 and the maximum is blank. If your maximum is 21, you can enter it in the maximum age area. The gender is male. We have just shown you some complicated combinations of the divisional assignment. It is always a good idea to contact the WinLABS support team at the design stage of your tournament to see if it is supported by WinLABS. This concludes the gender-based competition segment of the WinLABS tournament presentation.